Brian is the TCU tight end. Will he be better this year than he was drafted? Yes, absolutely. I think the fit and finish that he presents inside Andy's offense is going to be like the rest of the league's going to be like, well, how'd that kid get to be here? You know, like I think we're going to see him rise above a lot of the other prospects. I like Sinnott. I think, unfortunately, he went to an offense that I'm not sure is going to be able to capitalize on him as much as I'd like to see. Certainly Sanders is a bigger question mark. I think Wiley, much like George, could be a guy that was thought to be 4th, 5th, 6th type guy in a class that comes up and is right at the top of it. George Karlaftis is right there with Hutchinson from Detroit after being what we and most of the draft world considered the 5th-ish, 6th-ish prospect at his position in his draft. I think we could see the same thing. Thanks, Gary. John, nice to see you, bud. Given the fact that we are loaded at safety and that Hicks is trending towards linebacker side, do you think drafting Hicks played a part in letting Gay go or vice versa? I feel better, Dan. And Dan, that's the sentiment from everybody that we're seeing in here. So if you ever go back and watch this, I hope that you're feeling better, buddy. And folks, we'll get Dan back next week, I'm expecting. So we'll go from there. I don't think they were necessarily related. I know that the grades on Hicks were in long before the decision was made to let Willie go. Willie got a decent-sized contract, but it really came down to probably, hey, I got an offer from New Orleans. Do you guys want to match it? And then they had to make a decision point. Grades on Hicks were already in then. They liked what they saw on film. We did as well. We had him as a second-round pick. Dane Brugler had him as the best safety in the class. So Spags had already identified him, I'm pretty sure, through the scouting department. But Willie was a different thing, and I don't think it's a one-for-one. I think Hicks is more of a, can he do what Dan Sorensen did? I think Spags misses Dan Sorensen, but he realized that the performance just wasn't there. And I think Hicks can do similar things. And training him to play some free, just like Sorensen did, even though it wasn't his thing, is part of that evolution. So I see it more related to that than it is directly to Willie Gay. I do think that the Jacobs signing is probably related to Gay more directly. It does tell me that Cam Jones and Jack Cochran are the two guys that are going to back up the linebackers this season. That's why they let Christensen go early so that he can land somewhere else. Cody, nice to see you, buddy. Does Gary Dieter help the young receivers as an intern coach? I think that he does, and maybe not from a standard X's and O's kind of way. He does obviously have playing experience on this team, in this offense, at the wide receiver position, which is more than you can say for the wide receivers coach, who has not played wide receiver. So he does need some help there. But here's the bigger thing. When it comes down to, hey, you're running this route. Patrick wants a skinny post at 12 yards, make your cut, and get open so that he can see you. Dieter's going to have an ability to communicate different subtleties to that request so that it lines up with what Patrick wants because he knows Patrick. Not only do they play together, but they're tight off the field. So there's an extra feedback loop in terms of communicating to the younger players that I think he's going to be really interesting at. They've had a string of intern coaches here for a long time, and a lot of them go on to coaching in the league. Mike Vick was even one of them at one point. So I do think it's an interesting turn, but I do think it presents unique possibilities on how to connect and click with Patrick Mahomes that nobody else could really offer, to tell you the truth. Great question, Cody. Jason, nice to see you. Do you think that Jared Wiley is going to have a big role if Rasheed Rice becomes suspended for 2 to 8 games? I don't think Rasheed is immediately going to impact Wiley's usage. I think that could be an offshoot down the line, but I think the big thing is going to be, and again, if we look at this depth chart, Rasheed is going to be immediately backed up, in my opinion, by Justin Watson. Justin Watson is likely, I disagree with our lads here, Justin Watson is likely the number one right now. Xavier Worthy is likely not number one because, again, the trust factor. So if they have everyone, my guess is week 1 through week 6, the Chiefs start Rasheed Rice, Justin Watson, and Hollywood Brown. If Rasheed is not able to do that, I think you're trying to push Xavier into making those plays, and Wiley gets a few more reps. But again, the trust factor, especially early in the season, I think is going to be based a little bit more towards Noah Gray because you can trust him. And so I think that plays a bigger factor and gives the guys, the young guys, a little bit more time to grow. And that's a plus for everybody. Great question, Jason. Thank you. Patrick, prayers to Dan, just saw his tweet that he's in the ER. Oh, I hadn't seen that. He just said he wasn't feeling good to me. Uh-oh. I'm going to have to go to TweetDeck and see that. I will get an update later, you guys. We're not going to sidetrack that right now, especially if I'm going to be reacting to Dan's health live. Dan, if you're watching, I'll connect with you later tonight, and I hope that you're doing better. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Would you be interested in Michael Thomas? I mean, as a flyer, possibly, but only if you're willing to walk away from Kadarius Toney, because I don't think you give up on Sky Moore because he might be able to turn around. I think they trust Justin Watson. And obviously, Worthy, Hollywood, Rasheed are going to be in there. So who do you remove from the top 6 if you're going to sign Michael Thomas? It's probably Kadarius. So they got to be ready to walk on from that. I don't think they keep 7 receivers this year, guys. I do think it's going to be a 6-man room. And I think Justin Ross right now is on the outside looking in. So that might be tough for Michael Thomas to make a fit as well. Virginia, will Nico get some playing time this year? I think so. I haven't seen anything specific about him at this camp. I know he's eligible, but I don't think he's running in it. I haven't seen anything. So my guess is we won't know about whether he's physically able till later in the process. OTAs start again in 2 weeks, and I think that's probably when we'll start to hear. I do think they want to see him at kick return, though. And if I'm wrong, you guys let me know in the chat. If he has been out there and I'm just not aware of it, that is a possibility as well. Excuse me. But I think he showed enough that they're interested to see. And Zammit's taking some kicks. Obviously, Xavier is. There's a lot of returners this year that I think show some definite possibilities. So we'll see what comes of it. Go for KC forever. Thank you, buddy, and appreciate the support. Thanks for the super chat. Good to see you as well. You always have great information. Thank you. If in V-Sweet Trucks, it's been a good offseason. Keep nailing RGR. Go Chiefs. Thanks. Appreciate you forever. And thanks for being here, as you always are. Girk, nice to see you. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the super chat. So Brown, LRZ, Worthy, Wiley, Bailey, Steele. Excited for the offense. Between Battle, Wallace, Haddon, and Hicks, what's the ideal DB room? Wow. I mean, Hicks is going to make it. I mean, that's not even a question. It's him, Chamari. As long as Brian Cook is available, they should be it. If we look at the safety depth chart here, you're going to see what he's already in there with Chamari. Now, Deion's going to be in reserve. Deion Bush came in and made some plays, so we should be happy with that. But I do think it's going to come down to the corner battles, and I think Hayden has a chance. I'm not sure how comfortable they are with having Josh start one side and Watson start the other and leaving Trent in the nickel. I think part of that is going to hinge on how Nazee's doing. Now, Nazee was doing great, was looking like they could leave him at nickel and let McDuffie play outside until the injury last year. I don't know if that's the case now. So I feel like Hayden comes marching in. Kamal has a shot to make the roster right now. So I would say he and Battle would be right behind him. That's what I would think. Now, interesting that you put the first half of it as LRZ. That's Louis Rees Zammit, folks. He's the English rugby player. That you listed him with the wide receivers first, although you do have Bailey and Steele in there as well. I think Zammit is a running back, and they've started him that way, and I think they're going to leave him that way. If he splits out and runs some routes, fine. But the pitch game is going to be epic if you're throwing it to a rugby guy who takes pitches his whole career. And let's be real. This is professional football. We're not going to know anything. As I said on Locked On Chiefs tonight, we're not going to know anything until LRZ gets hit, because this ain't rugby. That's going to be an eye-opener for him. But I will also say this. Pitching to him in the open field when he's been a professional pitch catcher in rugby. He does not play the scrums. He's not a guy that's in the center. He's the guy on the wings that they pitch to. So he receives pitches in rugby, and that is his bread and butter. Now, he's got to learn the angles because they don't have free safeties up high that are coming down to cut off angles, right? But he's a guy that's going to get the ball in his hand. He's going to make some noise, and I think they should continue to line him up. I think he might make the roster as a running back. I think Steele has an option as well. Bailey's a little bit more iffy because I don't know if he does enough to separate himself from Pirine and Prince, who have the inside right now. Somebody's got to step forward, and it could be LRZ. My guy Steele, I think, is probably destined to be a practice squatter, but we'll see. But there's a lot of options there. And I will say this, too. I do like Battle's physicality, just going back to the defensive side a little bit. But it's this guy, Roland Wallace, that I think we got to keep an eye on as well. Lot of snaps he's played, crafty, and understands the game. Ekaboido is a long shot as well, but he put in good snaps last year. I'm not sure Kelvin Joseph can make this roster, and I think Battle surpasses him pretty quickly. So that's kind of where I'm at on it all. Great question, Gherkin. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate you, buddy. Chief Belief, thank you. 3.5 years almost. You are the beast. You're pushing the limit. Only Gooch and a couple of other folks are ahead of you. I appreciate you, buddy. Love the show. Rogue Nation has grown so much, and I'm wondering what you see the offense being ranked at the end of the season with a top 5 defense. I'm not sure a top 5 defense can sustain. They outplayed my prediction, which was like 12-ish to be at 4 overall. So certainly they can outperform me, but they have to have a couple of guys switch. And the corner position in particular, along with not having a Menahue, I'm a little concerned. So if they can get to 10, I'll be happy. And that'd be a great pickup. And with that offense, it's going to come down to, is the pass protection better or not? And if Patrick doesn't have to get creative, if he doesn't have to run for his life as much early in the season in particular, I think he'll be more steady. He'll deliver the ball more on time without any last-second heroics, right, which I think throws off some of the young receivers. So I think that leads to a better pass game with fewer turnovers, and then the offense overall is better. The question is going to be, do they double down and do they run more? Because I think with Wanya, you have to run more because that protects him a little bit as he's still developing. If Suamataia wins, if Kingsley wins, I think it's 50-50. And I know everybody gave me crap all offseason. Suamataia is the way that you pronounce that. He said it himself in the presser yesterday. So we got that one kind of sorted out, which is, kind of a relief to me. So if you're able to pass the ball like you want to and not sustain the pressure, I think you'll be able to get easily in the top 10. I would expect them, if everything goes to plan, they could finish as top 5 on both offense and defense. It's going to take a little bit, but I think they could get there. Thanks, Chief Belief. Jackson, thank you, buddy. 7 months of counting. Appreciate you very much. What are the chances that Reed gets an extension? The safety, not head coach. Yeah, I'm with you. The head coach just got an extension. So I do think that it's a possibility. And again, that plays into all the math that we were talking about earlier with Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, and what happens with Joe Thuney. Because if Thuney were to retire, say, that salary comes off the board. That allows you to pay for both Creed and Trey. Nick takes care of himself. That's pretty much worked out. Here's the thing is, if Trey goes to the free market and you have to match that, you can't do it, I don't think. Because you're going to be able to get Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton for probably the same price that you're going to have to pay Trey Smith. Because guard play right now is just overpriced. It's crazy. They're getting wide receiver money. It's nuts. So I am a little bit worried about that. And so if you're having to do all that, it gets a little bit troublesome of how you can take care of Justin Reed and get him back. Now, that said, they want him. They like what he does, and